It's working. Great. Welcome, everybody. This is the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the regular fall quarterly meeting. And we're glad y'all are here. Let's open with a moment of silence. Amen. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? There is an amendment to the agenda. So let's get the main motion on the floor.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we accept Daniel Hewitt as our new alternate to the Planning and Zoning Committee.
That's too early. What we want to do is just move the agenda.
Oh,
Just move that we adopt the agenda.
you want to do that first?
Yep.
I'll so move.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Now, is there a motion to amend the agenda to add under swearing in of new members that we also swear in Daniel Hewitt as an alternate member?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Got that, Kayla? Right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Have y'all had a chance to review, everyone except Dan, to review the July 27th meeting minutes? Is there a motion to approve those? I have one minor correction. First, get the motion on the floor.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Now, I heard a voice from the wilderness say he had something. Daniel?
No surprise, very, very minor. The third paragraph in the new business, the little caption says, discuss vacancy of regular town member planning and zoning committee chair. I hope we don't have a vacancy in the chair. I think it says a vacancy. So I think the word chair just needs to be deleted.
Where are you, Dan?
Third paragraph under new business.
1, 2, 3.
I don't see any new business.
On the second page,
Second page.
page 2, new business. And the caption says, discuss vacancy of regular town member planning and zoning committee chair. The word chair needs to
Oh,
be
chair
deleted.
comes out. Okay. Anyone can fill that vacancy anytime if they would like.
No, sir.
Is there a motion to approve that amendment?
I also move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved as amended. At this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Angie, and we have the swearing in of 2 new members. William Tucker is moving up from an alternate to a commissioner. The pay is a significant increase.
That's what I was hoping for.
And then Daniel Hewitt is going to be, has been approved as the new alternate commissioner, taking the vacancy created by Mr. Tucker's movement up.
Bill, who seconded Dan's motion to amend the minutes?
I think Liz did, or John did. Yeah, from my left somewhere. Okay. Okay, Angie, would you like to swear in the 2 persons that need to be sworn in? And we're delighted that each of them are going to serve in these capacities. They're both very capable. Bill has been around us for months, if not years now. And Daniel's been on the comprehensive planning committee and did a long and thorough job with that. So it's been a good resident of Montreat for many years.
Bill, I'll do you first.
Do you, Bill Tucker, swear or affirm that you will well and truly execute the duties of regular membership of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Montreat according to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God? Sign right there for me. Congratulations. And then Daniel. Do you want to hold the Bible and closer? I mean, this is official. There you go. Do you, Daniel Hewitt, swear or affirm that you will well and truly execute the duties of alternate membership of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Montreat according to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God? Congratulations.
Great, congratulations to both of y'all, and we look forward to your service. Great. While Daniel is getting settled, let's move on to subcommittee updates. Hillside Development, Liz?
The Hillside Development Subcommittee has not met since our last regular P&Z meeting, I believe. Was that July 27th? Yeah. And we, at this time, have a vacancy since Wade has moved out of the community. Hey, Wade.
So if anyone would be interested in serving on that committee, please let us know. I guess you could let Kayla know, and then we could deal with that. Alan?
I'm interested in serving on the committee.
Okay.
Yes, I'm wanting to serve on that committee also. Thank you.
All right, so I think without objection, we'll just name him to that committee, and
Yeah,
now
that
we
would
are
be
full.
great.
Okay, I don't think we need to elect him. I think that's just me. Yes, and we don't have a meeting yet.
And I can reach out to the three of you and we can talk about setting something up and just see what works. Just as a note, I know that on the zoning committee's kind of to-do list is investigating whether to allow members of the public to serve on those committees. So I just want to make a note that no decision has been made on that at this time.
Okay, thank you, Kayla. No.
Okay, thank you. The meeting of the Montreat Sign Ordinance Committee, John?
Yeah, we are ready to finalize our report as soon as we can find a date that will satisfy all of our members. So looking like mid-November right now.
Kayla, anything else to report on that? Okay, thank you, John. Good luck. So we can expect to act on that in our January meeting unless we need to do
I
that.
hope
right.
so,
Okay,
yes.
great. Okay, the Zoning Ordinance Amendments Research Committee, Mr. Dean.
Broken record here. Nothing to report. We're still in a holding pattern pending the outcome of the lodge controversy. But we have a growing list of things to address once we get the green light.
Y'all will recall that Dan, I think rightly, is waiting for the lodge to get resolved because there are some things that are affected by that. So thank you for that report. Yes, Liz?
Is now an appropriate time for me to ask a question, or should I
Sure.
wait till new business?
No, go ahead and ask a question.
Okay, Dan, I was just wondering, because I know we've had a lot of discussion about different things that were pushed towards that committee, and I wondered if you had any simple little list of maybe what you had so far, not today, but that might give us an idea so we can kind of keep in the back of our mind the things you're working on. Would that be all right?
Well, of course, we're not working on anything, but I am compiling a list every
the
meeting we
things.
have. It seems like something comes up and gets pushed to
Right.
us. So yes, I have a little handwritten list in my file at home that I've been adding things to it, but I suppose we could type it up at some point, yes.
Would that-
Yeah, Dan, that would be great if you could share that with me. I've got some things that we've discussed, but obviously there's some other things that I wasn't here
Sure.
for.
Be
Great.
glad to
Okay,
get that
thank you.
compiled and get it to Kayla. Yep.
I thought I had it. Thank you for the question and thank you for the response. Okay, no other subcommittees, new business. Kayla, going to turn this over to you. First, the discussion of Montreat tomorrow. Comprehensive plan action items.
Yeah, so I put this on the agenda. This is kind of the meat of our meeting. I put this on the agenda because I feel like there's really good energy behind the comprehensive plan right now, and I don't want to lose that. I want to capitalize on that and keep it going. So as y'all know, the comp plan was adopted, and we've got a series of objectives and responsible entities to complete those objectives. A lot of them have to do with land use and development, so they do kind of center on Planning and Zoning Commission, the subcommittees, that part of the town. And so what I wanted to do today is to do a first pass of these objectives and figure out what what objectives should be designated to the zoning committee and what objectives should stay within the larger committee. The committee, yeah, the committee as a whole, just so that we can get an idea of what direction we're going in, so that we don't lose the momentum that's behind the comp plan. So the objectives that are in this little 3-sheeter, and if anyone needs extras, I printed copies at some point. What I've done is I've pulled out the objectives that were planning and zoning specific or town-wide or had planning and zoning involved, so that we could have that discussion. I don't anticipate this being very long or detailed, but at least I think if we could get them into 2 buckets, what is within the larger committee and what needs to go to a subcommittee, that would at least give us kind of a path forward.
We could mark on where it says implementation, full committee or subcommittee.
Okay. Yeah. Just to make sure I'm understanding, full committee means planning and zoning committee. Okay.
Yeah, and then our 3 subcommittees, which I think, there are some that are specific to the 3 subcommittees. So definitely what's full committee, so the entire membership, and then what is one of the existing subcommittees. Okay, so I guess let's just start with environment. I'll go through them one by one. Does everyone have? Yep. Okay, everyone's got one. Yes, you can. Okay, so objective 3 is create a local erosion and sediment control ordinance. Right now, we rely on the county's erosion and sediment control ordinance, which is only triggered when you disturb an acre or more of land. So it's not even based on parcel size or lot size. It's based off of the amount of area you're disturbing. And there are almost no lots in Montreat that are even that size, let alone disturbing that much land. So really, we don't have a requirement for actually pulling an erosion and sediment control permit or doing a grading plan. I know that the building inspector does require certain erosion and sediment control measures to be taken on site. We just don't have an ordinance that specifies how that needs to be done. So that is something that was designated to planning and zoning. It's high priority and is recommended to be done sooner rather than later.
So that seems to me a committee should work through that and make a recommendation to the full. What committee would you recommend?
I would say probably zoning.
That's what I would say. Dan's committee, okay. Without objection?
I just had one question on, as I look at this, the timeframes that are specified. I don't know if those are actually defined anywhere in the comprehensive plan, but there's like 8 of them that are defined as short-term. So as this group tries to kind of prioritize what to focus on, I'm curious does short-term mean within a year, within 3 years?
Yeah, let me look.
Okay.
Good. I was wondering also.
No, there is a priority. Yeah, there is a priority designation, so high priority. Short-term objectives should aim to be completed in 5 years, while long-term objectives are on a 10-year timeline. And obviously, these are just recommendations, so if we're not meeting those exact timeframes, it's okay. This isn't a legislative document. Short-term is 5.
Thank you.
I'm willing to take on the task that was just assigned to us. I just have to question, I'm not sure exactly what the Hillside Development Subcommittee is dealing with. And my first thought was whether this might actually be better under their committee than our broad committee.
No, so the Hillside Development Subcommittee is related to the ordinance that's for lots over 40% slope. The erosion and sediment control ordinance would apply to the entire town. Yeah, that I had the same thought, but then, the Hillside Development only deals with those steep slope lots, whereas the erosion and sediment control ordinance would be town-wide and would be based on certain development criteria.
do you think as we work through this, because to me, 5 and 10 years seems like a long time, especially we have lots of things going on, that maybe as we work through this, at the end, we can kind of prioritize and maybe even make our
Yeah,
own
absolutely. Internally.
timeframe?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Liz. Yeah, and even committee, subcommittee specific can talk internally amongst themselves about how to prioritize internally. Because like I
That's
said,
probably
this
the better
isn't,
way to do it.
this isn't a regulatory document. This is just a recommendation. Yeah.
So Dan, maybe your committee could talk about that. I mean, you got 5 years, but I think a year, something like that. They would be the best to organize their work. Okay, great. And you could report that back at our January meeting as to what your time frame is. Unless you plan to be finished by then.
Well, I think my personal plan, and subject to committee's approval, and once we gather, is do it as soon as possible once we get the roadblock out of the way that's holding us up. Whether that's between now and January or now and next June or when that is, I just plan to meet as quickly as possible thereafter. So, but we're kind of in an uncertain point, so I'm not sure what we can, how we
Sure.
can establish any deadline when we have an uncertain roadblock in the way.
Sure.
And I think, Dan, that we are kind of heading towards what I hope to be the end of the outstanding conflict. So hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later, but I hear what you're saying.
And you can just report back to the full committee what you're thinking about at our next meeting, unless you already finished with it. Just so
Well,
we'll know what you're.
I guess I'm trying to understand what you're asking of me. Are you asking for me to report, or are you asking for us to call a meeting of the committee and just discuss it ourselves and then decide? But it seems to me that,
Yeah, that's what the committee would decide, what sort of priority and time frame it thinks it can get it done by.
but I guess what I'm saying is, even if we're sitting right here as that committee, I'm not sure we can answer that question until the large controversy is resolved.
Sure, and then you could say that, right, that we don't have a time frame at this point.
I guess that's what I'm saying right now. Are you asking me to call a committee
Well,
meeting
I
to
think-
confirm that?
I think that what Bill's saying is that if we do meet in between now and then, if it does get resolved within the next couple months before our next meeting, then just whatever.
In other words, just
Just-
keep us advised what you're going to do, is all I'm saying.
Sure, I'll be glad to do that.
When it
And-
gets
And I'd
decided.
love to have a committee meeting and get to work on the task before us, absolutely. So we'll do that as soon as we can.
Next,
Explore the adoption of additional stream protection ordinances. I think that's zoning as well, the zoning ordinance subcommittee.
okay, without objection. 6,
So I had a couple of questions on that one. So there are two major conservation easements that I'm aware of that exist today. One is the roughly 2,500 acres that MRA owns, but has put into an easement with the Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy. And then there's the additional roughly 250 acres that the Montreat Cottagers bought about 30 years ago, Rocky Knob, that's not part of Montreat, but is linked to Montreat via hiking trails. And then I think there's maybe one or two other small pockets, but are there other significant tracts that are currently in easement? Okay,
Not that I'm aware of.
okay.
that raises a good question for me. If it's not in Montreat, do we have any authority to create easements on that? So we
The
might
Rocky
not-
Knob property actually was, shortly after it was acquired by the Cottagers, was placed similarly into a conservation easement with the Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, so it is protected.
Okay.
So what this objective is saying is, it's about how do we get more permanent green space? How do we protect the tree canopy? How do we make sure that, you know, the vegetated areas of Montreat stay vegetated? And so really this is just an exploration of whether or not conservation easements are the right venue or the right vehicle to accomplish that. And so I think my recommendation for this one would to be keep it at the larger committee level, because it's really a discussion, and it's kind of very high level right now. And until we really distill down whether or not conservation easements are the best way to accomplish this, I don't think there's enough specificity yet to actually give it to a subcommittee.
Yes, sir. We'll keep that at the overall committee level, and you'll put that on our agenda as you feel the
Yeah.
time is appropriate. Okay.
Yeah, I'll do some background research, flush some stuff out. It may not be in January, but we'll keep that on the kind of workflow.
Just one other question on that one. It references OSC, which is the Open Space Committee. I just want to make sure I know exactly which committee that is, because there are like at least 3 or 4 different committees that deal with kind of wilderness and this topic. And I'm actually on the Cottagers Wilderness and Open Space Committee, and the MRA Wilderness Committee, and the Land Care Committee. So I'm not really sure exactly which entity that is.
It's Open Space Committee, which is separate from Land Care. Yeah,
So
these
is
are
it a
these are
town-
town
It is a
committees.
town committee. Okay.
Yeah, this is only town entities. And certainly we can invite those other parties to participate in the discussion,
Okay.
which I think once I have some time to kind of dive into what this means, then I think we can put a game plan together of who else really needs to be at the table. Yeah, but these entities are town entities.
Right.
We did not name private entities.
I guess it's worth noting that all these other committees are actively thinking along these lines as well.
Yeah, they've all reached out to me. Yeah, so I think we'll get a game plan together, and really we're not taking any action anytime soon. But yeah, I think an important piece of this will be figuring out who else needs to be at the table. Okay.
Hey, Kayla, not to go backwards, but looking at explore the adoption of additional stream protection ordinances, I do wonder, and not saying that we should change something right now, when I see the word explore versus implement, it does make me wonder if it belongs initially with the group.
Yeah.
And I do worry a little bit about how much is going to end up on the zoning ordinance subcommittee as a means to actually make progress.
I would agree. I would agree with Julie, is moving the stream protection discussion up higher into the full committee rather than. I would agree with Julie on that. Yeah.
You handled that one very quickly.
Hey, Dan, am I on that subcommittee?
Okay, implement stormwater management plan as required and approved by small MS4 NPDS permit. So right now, the plan, our stormwater management plan, is still in review by the state. I talked to Mary Roderick with Land of Sky, who's also my boss, about where we are in the state's review queue, and we are not anytime soon. So I think, when we actually have the plan approved, we'll need to look at it and make sure that the zoning ordinance, the stormwater ordinance are conducive to what that plan is asking us to do. But right now, we don't have a plan. It's in review. So I would just I would say give it to the zoning subcommittee, just because it is an implement matching the two together. But it's definitely something that's at the bottom of the list.
Why don't we just hold it on your list and not assign it to a committee?
We can do that.
Let's do that.
if you guys
And
want to do
rather
that.
than implement, I think you might want to just say, consider.
Well, we're not changing any of the wording. This is
Oh,
this is the adopted wording. So I'll just kind of I'll have a hold list of ones that we just can't do anything about yet. Okay. Create a voluntary stormwater control measure and flood risk mitigation program with established goals that include educational opportunities and outreach efforts. I think that this should stay at the full committee level, because we're gonna have to look at what other towns do, how effective it is, what sort of capacity the town has to implement something like this. So I think keeping it at the full commission level.
And just hold it on your list, because we can't do anything with that. That's the same as 7.
That's what I wondered. Doesn't number 9 build on top of number 7?
The flood risk mitigation doesn't, but the stormwater does. So I think we could start on it, but keep it lower on the priority list.
At some point, you'll bring it before the full committee. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I don't want to hold this one entirely, because we can start working on the flood risk mitigation part of it, looking at ways that communities encourage voluntary flood risk mitigation, because we do have quite a large floodplain associated with Flat Creek. And so we can start looking at those pieces and just wait on the stormwater piece until the stormwater plan is adopted.
That's what I mean. And at some point, you'll bring it to the full committee for when we would start considering it. Right. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I may bring the flood stuff before.
And possibly, could there even be some maybe public education a little bit, or something, kind of like we've done with the bears?
Yeah, I think it's something to discuss. I mean, we have to consider the capacity that the town has.
Right.
And so I think that'll be part of the discussion, certainly. Okay, investigate implementing view shed protection regulations in Montreat.
And Kayla, what is a view shed?
So a view shed is when you're standing at a certain point, it's what you see. So the view shed is what you are looking at. So oftentimes view sheds are designated from a specific point. So one example is the Alamo. Don't ask me why I know this, but when you're standing in front of the Alamo, there's a plaque, and everything you see around it is as it was 100 years ago. So you don't see any houses, you don't see any roads, you don't see any human constructed things. It's everything that's there. So the purpose of the view shed is to maintain the character and the quality of the surrounding land from a specific point.
But that point could be anywhere in Montreat, so this could cover everything. It could be looking up at the ridges from down in the valley, or
It would
looking
be
down
something
the
to
valley from-
discuss how we would implement it.
Yeah, I think that would be very complicated to do, especially here, with all the different homes and the guidance for what you've got to have.
Well, and that's part of the investigation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do already have some ordinances for the hillside development.
So the hillside development does, the purpose mentions viewscape and viewshed, but it does not include specific provisions.
Okay.
So I did look at viewshed, viewscape ordinances, and that's why I know about the Alamo one, is because they designate it from a certain point. They've mapped out where you are subject to the viewshed requirements and what additional development regulations apply to you when you're within that area. So it's something to discuss. We, it may not be the best step. It may not be what the commission and the public desires, but we should investigate it.
Kayla, I wonder if there may be some indirect protection and limitations on building height, for example. So for example, pick your favorite hiking point to go to. If nothing can be constructed over three stories, then I wonder if part of this might be investigating and then realizing that we already have protections and just simply communicating that.
I think that's a really important point, Julie, and I would carry that throughout everything that we're doing. Is we want to examine what we already have and how that impacts what we would add, and if it's already being accomplished, and evaluate whether what we have is effective and how effective it is. So what do y'all think about keeping this at the higher level?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to comment on, because to me, it needs to come sort of, the town of Montreat. If there's some things we want to incorporate into what is already our planning and zoning criteria, that's where I see it really needs to reside,
Yeah.
instead of us trying to push that through us.
Yeah, so I think we'll
Alone.
keep that at the, go ahead, Dan.
No, I wasn't going to speak directly to that, so if you have a thought to finish that, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think keeping it at a higher level while we're still just talking about what exactly it means. Like what Julie said, what do we already have? And looking at some examples, I think keeping it at a higher level until we're ready to really get into the technical aspect and then bring it down into a subcommittee.
I can volunteer to do some of that initial investigation just to get it off the ground.
Yeah, that's fine. I have some stuff already pulled together that I'd be happy to send you, Julie. It is actually very interesting.
So maybe at a upcoming meeting, whenever,
Yeah,
you and Julie could make a presentation about that, and that would lead a discussion.
yeah, that would be great. I'll
Thank
make
you,
a note,
Julie.
Julie.
Just one quick comment I had, going back to Julie's initial, or somebody's initial question about what does viewshed mean? And we're kind of talking about it indirectly, and I think Julie's exactly right. Some of the things that we already have on books indirectly affect viewshed. But is there not also a more direct component? For an example I can think of is the phone tower that we've talked about in the past, which is seen from many parts of Montreat, and when it was originally constructed, it blended in with the view. And now I think we all agree, based on additions that have been made to it over the years, it does not blend in very well and has become somewhat unsightly. So that's a more direct aspect that may or may not be amenable to regulation and rules. But
Yeah, I think the impact on what we have today and how we handle that will definitely be a part of it. And Dan, you and I can talk after about that. Yeah, I agree. I think part of the discussion will be based on what we have today. How do we deal with that? Not just in terms of the regulation, but the actual built environment. Okay, next one is 11, examine hillside development ordinance. That's hillside development subcommittee. We're already doing that. I gave us some easy wins in here.
Thank you, Kayla.
Who are you? It says you're doing this to planning and zoning, so that's not hillside development.
We're going as
I
a
mean the whole thing.
as a committee.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, as a committee, hillside development will take that objective. Support and implement the goals and recommendations for the town in the regional hazard mitigation plan. So that would just be very similar to the MS4 plan, examining what is recommended for Montreat in that plan and making sure that the development regulations are supporting that. So I would say, let's bring that to the full committee, and then if we need to craft specific language, we can then bring it down to zoning.
Kayla, is there a website or something we can look at the Buncombe and Madison County?
Yeah, so it's linked in the comprehensive plan.
Oh, okay.
And you can also just Google Buncombe and Madison County Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan, and it'll come up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So Kayla, now that we've gone through one set of these,
Yes.
I have just a question for the group. And pulling on the thread of what you mentioned about let's maintain the momentum, I'm wondering if we as a commission at our quarterly meeting should just be prepared to report out and get something into the materials that go to the town.
Sure.
Because I think just making sure that the town feels like the work was valuable and that we have heard it. We have heard their voice, and we're taking action. And even if the action is this is pending, I think that's just such valuable information.
I agree.
Yeah, we could do that. I think quarterly may be a bit much. I
wanted to hear all this before.
But
Yes.
I think annually, maybe putting just something together saying this is the progress that we've made. Come to our meetings.
Well, I think even
or semi-annually.
even reporting that we're going to hold ourselves accountable in that manner, soon, like maybe after the January meeting, whenever, and certainly I'm interested. Exactly, to just formally organize around this. And then we can define the timeframes. And then frankly, if something comes up, we may need to adjust.
That could be in the sense of our report to the town council which would then be shared with the communities as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we can talk about that at the January meeting, exactly if y'all want to think about what the best way to present that is, whether it's a chart, whether it's a little written report, how often we should do it. My vote would be annually, but I'll leave that up to you guys. And so maybe in January, we'll just have a item on the agenda to just discuss how to track and update the community.
The next section, development. Kayla?
Okay, number 2 is investigate implementing a maximum lot coverage standard to cap the percentage of a lot that can be developed. Again, this should, I think, stay at the larger committee before moving into a subcommittee. I think we need to look at what other communities do and whether or not this is a way that we could, increase and maintain the areas that are vegetated and green in the town.
Why did they make this a short-term priority?
So I recommended that it be a short-term priority because we have active development and we can't go back and get them to reduce the amount of the lot they've covered. Yeah. And finding maximum lot coverage standards and ordinances is fairly simple. So we could look, it's really just looking at what other communities do and seeing if it's something we'd want to do here. So I felt like this was an easier, one that is a little bit more easy to obtain.
Would it be a function of staff then to make recommendations concerning that we would then discuss as rather than trying to generate it as the...
Yeah, so I'd bring you guys materials, let you know what other communities are doing, give you, kind of an overview of what this technique does. And then as a committee, you guys would discuss and then give me some direction as what you like, what you don't like, whether we want to pursue this, and then we could decide if it needs to go down to the subcommittee or if it's something that I can pull together just at staff level.
Yeah, and what I'm interested in though is a staff recommendation because you're the one that has to deal with it.
Yeah, and that will come, I think, after as the committee has decided what direction you guys want to go, because I don't want to put together a bunch of language and then decide it's got to then go to the zoning subcommittee, or it's not what you guys want at all. This is really, again, that verb investigate, whether this is even something that the committee feels we should pursue.
And does that encompasses all lots, including both residential, institutional, et cetera, or set up to us to decide? Okay.
Yeah.
And then do we actually have data on what percentages are for each lot in Montreat are currently developed, just so we know that going in?
No, I would look at, when I am pulling information together for you guys to discuss, I'd look at what the best way to kind of provide that background information on existing conditions is. I don't have the capacity to go down to that granular level. So I want to look at how some other entities are presenting that information and find something that's feasible. But yes, letting you guys know what the existing conditions are, I think is obviously very important when it comes to this.
This may be a dumb question, but do we not already have a cap on percentages to some extent, maybe indirectly, not intentionally and specifically stated, by virtue of setbacks?
Yeah,
So
indirect.
We've already said how much of a lot can be developed. We don't say it by percentage, but we say it by other rules.
Maximum lot coverage is impervious surface. You can still construct a driveway in your setbacks. You just can't build a structure. So, yes, part of it is covered by the setbacks, but there are things you can do in your setbacks that then remove that vegetated area. And I think that's part of the investigation, just like Julie said, when we talk about the viewscapes, what indirectly are we doing that is already accomplishing this, and do we feel like we need to go further?
I just sort of had a curious question, and it might fit in with this. because I know we do have building going on. Is there some way to get an overall picture of that, of the activity going on in Montreat that's easy to see?
Like the number of permits issued?
Possibly.
Yeah, we have
Or
that.
just to kind of get an overall view, hey, this is what's going on in our community right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I would be really interested in that, just.
what time frame would you be looking for?
I'm not sure about that.
It's included in the monthly packet, the number of permits issued
Oh, it is?
for the Board of
Oh, it is
Commissioners.
for the-
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
for Board of Commissioners for that month.
Okay, so I could go back and look myself. I'll look at that myself. Okay. After the Okay. Okay, thank you, Angie.
Thanks, Angie. Okay, next one is about the wayfinding plan. So I would like that to go to the sign
I
subcommittee.
would say, why duplicate it?
Yeah. And we can talk about what the best way forward for that is, whether it's something that we need to find someone externally to do, whether it's something we need to bring somebody in to do, or whether we have the resources to do it in-house. But we can talk about that later.
So that goes to John's committee.
Yes.
And then number 4 is kind of a general one, is just doing an overall review of the zoning ordinance to make sure that all the uses, densities, and dimensional regulations are conducive to develop the type of development that Montreat wants to see. I just know from the zoning administration perspective, there are some challenges that people who want to build in Montreat bring up to me frequently. And so I think this is something that the zoning subcommittee, zoning ordinance subcommittee, we can work on, that we can work on. Okay, the next one is short-term rentals. I think this is for the larger committee.
Didn't we just do something on this not too long ago? On short-term rentals, maybe that's my imagination.
Not with me. All right. Support current and new activities with local, regional, and state partners to educate the public about the value of historic properties and landmarks. So this is not, I think, about regulation. This is more about education. And so I'd love to hear what you guys think about this.
Well, I for one would like to have this sort of a town-wide discussion, because if they're talking about historical preservation, landmarks, those sort of things, they need to come up with a plan themselves before we look at how that would be implemented through planning and zoning.
So it would not be implemented through planning and zoning.
Well, maybe not implemented.
The
but-
Board
but
of Commissioners made it,
codified.
the Board of the Board of Commissioners made it very clear
Okay.
that they are not supportive of implementing any sort of historic preservation district. So this would not be regulation, this would not be codified, this would be entirely voluntary. And so this is, I think, more about education than it is about actual regulation. And so I don't know if this is something that planning and zoning wants to take on.
I don't think we do. Wouldn't that go to another committee of the town?
That's what I was thinking. That's where I was trying to go. Sorry. Thank you for.
Yeah. Okay, so,
Well, in the Presbyterian Heritage Center, I mean, there's already stuff that goes into the Montreat Minute, right? That's education on local landmarks. So this must be something different. It must, it must
No, that's, I mean, it's
maybe continuing to do that.
It sort of feels a little bit like what Bill was talking about earlier with the conservation, and there's other entities that are working on that already. And what do we already have, or can we bring in, historic, just to educate the public? What are you thinking, Kayla? There's steam coming out your ears. No.
This is a very hot topic.
Oh, okay.
And really the only way to regulate historical structures, there are very few ways in North Carolina, and it's a lot. And the Board of Commissioners was very clear that that was not the direction that they
Right.
wanted to go. And so I think for this, I would recommend just holding. And if any of those entities want information from planning and zoning, we just remain open to that.
Instead of that, why don't we just refer this back to the town council and say, we don't think planning and zoning is the proper place for this, and we think you should consider another entity.
Well, it's not asking for any specific
Yeah,
action.
but I'm trying to get it off our list.
Yeah, I think really what I understand from this objective is, and again, because it's not regulatory, it's not regulations at all, it's just, the way that I understood this was that if these entities in the community that are doing this work want information on development regulations that relate to historic preservation, if they have questions, this committee just remain open to providing that and just be supportive of the work in that way.
Well, let's just reply in that way to the town council saying, we've considered this and we just want to say our staff is available, we're available for
Yeah.
any discussion with Stephen, but we don't think.
So I don't think we need to take any action on it. It's just, if
I'd
a request,
I'd like to get it off our list.
yeah, I'm just gonna say no action. And just, if any of these entities are interested, if any of these entities feel like they need resources or have questions for the committee about the direction that the recommendations are going, or, want to provide comment or anything, that we just make space for that, but I don't think there's any specific action needed.
I think we do need to note that the Presbyterian Heritage Center has taken the lead in this. And if anything, we're looking to them for guidance, but I think we need to note that when we get back with the town council, that we feel like the Presbyterian Heritage Center is doing this. And as Bill said, we don't need to take this up.
Yeah.
We could just
No
say,
action.
we note for the town council, the
Yeah.
Presbyterian Heritage Center is
Yeah.
involved in this sort of.
Yeah, but I think we ought to so designate them as a lead person too.
I don't think we could designate.
No,
Well,
We can't
Just-
designate.
well, recommend.
just no action. If there are entities that need information, we're available. That's it.
So we're not really able to say to the town council or recommend to them, because I understand we don't want, I understand that, but maybe encouraging education in the community, but that's not our place. Could
I would
we
just say
recommend
no,
it come?
no
Okay.
action. Just
Okay,
no
okay.
action. We're here to support those
Okay.
entities if they feel like they need information
Okay,
or if they have questions. The committee is here to provide
Okay.
that, but that's it. No action.
okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Crawford has got to leave to go to another meeting, so which one of our alternates would like to take his place? Sally? Okay. Right. Note that in the minutes.
Okay. So the next one is just working with the college and the MRA on future development plans. So I don't think there's any action that needs to be taken at this time, but, looking for comment from those entities.
I think we could calendar at Bill might have a suggestion on this, at a particular meeting, one of the quarterly meetings, to just ask the question, like I could go to these entities and say, could you give us an update? Is anything in the works? So it wouldn't be a huge action, but to have a regular touch base in the calendar.
I like that idea.
That's a good idea. We could ask each of them to come at a separate time and just say, what's going on with your
Or
plans?
invite them to
come
one
make
of the meetings.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Good. Don't start in January, though, start at the
No.
next one.
yeah, I agree.
And we can talk more about that. And if anyone has any other ideas of how to satisfy this objective at our next meeting. So I'm just going to note this as being part of the full committee. Okay, let's go on to the last one, which is transportation. So the first one is kind of a general objective. This is something that would require a consultant. This is not something that we could do in-house. So I guess let's just leave this at the full committee, and we can talk about ways forward with this, because I don't have the experience or capacity to conduct a traffic calming study.
This wasn't assigned to our committee anyway, right? None of these.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
We could just say back to them, we don't think planning and zoning is appropriate for this, and we recommend the council, if they want to proceed, that they appoint a committee to deal with this.
Or discuss that whether PZC would be in support of something like this.
I don't think we need to discuss it if you think they ought to discuss it.
What do you guys think? No action at this time?
Especially since it wasn't even assigned to us. I mean, it's the whole town wide.
That's a good
I don't
point.
think we even need to respond specifically, do we?
No. I put the townwide ones to see if there's any actions that planning and zoning needs to take under them. So I think no action at this time, unless a plan is pursued, then then at that time, PZC would get involved.
It's almost like we don't have information.
Yeah.
You know, what is it like now? Report from maybe our police department. Do you know?
Right, so this was I put a request before the council earlier this year about applying for a traffic study, and it was not approved. And so there was some information given at that time, but I think that leaving this to the decision of the council, and then just, if it does come to fruition, supporting that and providing any time, any resources that are needed for that, is the action needed from planning and zoning.
I do think, though, like you just said, we ought to leave it to the action of the
Leave
council.
it, yeah.
And they ought to do that.
Yeah.
And Jane's going to take all this back to the council.
Yeah. But Kayla, why do you think the town didn't?
I think it was the cost of it.
What was the cost? Do you know?
I think it was it 20,000 or something?
Really?
Yeah, it was $20,000 to study Assembly Drive.
Just one road?
Traffic engineers are very expensive.
Interesting.
Traffic engineer. Okay.
Very expensive.
Interesting.
Tim and I will do that for less.
Yeah. I'll have a lemonade stand out.
That is not my realm of expertise,
I had no
so.
idea.
Nope.
Wow.
But yeah, so.
Actually, I think this is a very, very important part of the comprehensive plan, you know. Maybe, like you said, it is townwide. Maybe there isn't, you know, any kind of action that planning and zoning needs to do, but I wish there were something we could do, put it that way, because I live really close to the gate, and I would love to see something.
I think as, individual members of the public, you guys can certainly go before council and say that you're in support of pursuing this objective, even if it doesn't come from planning and zoning itself. As individual members, as individual members of the public, you can certainly advocate for that position.
And I have probably half a dozen times and taken, petitions to council. Not had any luck.
So we'll just, no action at this time. Okay, doesn't show the whole objective. Examine.
My goal was to get out of here about 11:30, so let's move it along.
Yeah. Parking demand, again, this is townwide. I think we can certainly discuss. So it on here, I don't know why, but it didn't, whatever it's called in the Excel spreadsheet where it puts the rest of the text under it, so it cuts off. The full objective is periodically examine the availability and demand for parking in the town of Montreat, develop strategies as needed to address parking issues. Special consideration to seasonal parking needs should be included. So I think part of that is direction from the council on pursuing something like a parking demand study. But the other part of that we could consider is how parking is handled in town, and if there's anything on the development regulation side that we could do to improve that. So I'll leave that up to you guys, whether you want to just wait and see if the council wants to take any action, or if it's something that you guys want to pursue internally and talk about what we do now for parking and what we could do to improve parking.
Yeah, this is another item where MRA and the college has to be directly involved because they're the ones who impact parking really. So they need to, anything the town does, they need to be involved in this discussion.
Yeah.
And maybe we might just respond to the council by saying, we recommend that you consider whether a joint committee of the MRA, the town, and the college would be appropriate to discuss this.
I think it's also important, like earlier when we talked about hearing from them, from the college and the MRA, what their upcoming plans are, you know, and how are we going to work together in the community?
Yeah, and I think that's develop strategies as needed to address parking issues. Yeah. Okay, cool. Next is investigate developing a freight plan in partnership with local and regional partners. This plan may include, but is not limited to, designated truck routes, drop-off delivery zones, and a permit system for overweight vehicles to be charged a fee. I don't think there's any action on this that y'all need to take. If it's something that the council wants to pursue, certainly y'all can be in support of it, but no action at this time.
And report that back in that fashion to them, so we get it off of our table.
Yeah, just so it's known that, update and implement the town's bicycle, pedestrian, and greenways master plan. So the town has a very outdated bike ped plan. But again, this is something that would need to be done by an outside consultant. And so I think, again, we're coming back to no action unless a plan is done, and then this board can find ways to implement it. I don't know why, but the last one isn't on here. Let me make sure. Hang on one second. Landcare, Town of Montreat. So last one is support, and I don't know why it's not on here, support private-public partnership opportunities to fund and support trail maintenance. This is town-wide, and also the Land Care Committee. I don't think there's any action that needs to be taken by planning and zoning for this, which I think might have been why I left it off of here. It's not something that you guys are involved with.
That's my phone.
So, yeah. Okay,
Thank
so.
you. Let me just, anybody have any
Yes.
more questions about this part of it?
Do we, you said that town council, you know, do we know anything about how they've prioritized some of these things? Okay,
No, not at this time.
thanks.
But I'm going to type this up and I'll send it to you guys so everyone has a copy of it. And then I'll also send it to Savannah and let her decide how she wants to present this information to the council. And I'll also add in kind of the comments and questions of, you know, the joint committee for parking or whatever. So that'll all be in there. Okay, cool. Well, I guess in January, we'll come back to this and just keep discussing it. And then all the subcommittees will work to schedule meetings as feasible. And we'll go from there. Thanks, y'all.
And I will get a typed up list of the action items so far for our subcommittee and get it to Kaylin. We can get it circulated so people just be aware of what we have on our to-do list, which is growing by the meeting.
Yes.
I was
we
really
just-
worried.
You
such a-
guys, you
such
didn't
a-
get as much as I thought you were going to get.
Such a capable committee, though, Dan. Such a
Yeah.
capable committee.
I'm not even sure I remember who's all on the committee. I hope I have that written down
I
somewhere.
have a list.
I remember it was a pretty large committee. It was close to a committee of the whole, but,
I know you
We'll
and
see.
Julie are on it.
yeah, yes.
Okay, then on the discussion of fall planning zoning commission training, Kat had just wanted to know if we wanted to consider some training subjects, if we would like any specific expertise or additional information. She'd be
So,
willing to provide that.
If y'all remember from last fall, we did a training, we overviewed the ordinance and we did some deep dive topics. And then in the spring, we came back and did training on PUDs. We can do that again this year. We can go through the different types of cases, because I know that y'all don't work these cases every month. You guys haven't seen a rezoning this year. You've seen one conditional rezoning ever. You've never seen a PUD. So just staying up to date on these. And right now in the state legislation, I don't think that anything changed in regards to how the legislative cases are processed. That when we had 160D come in, everything changed. But right now, nothing has changed that I can find yet, but I'll know for sure towards the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, we could certainly do a training where we go over the different types of cases that you guys see. We can deep dive on topics. But I want to, leave that up to you guys and just let you know that I'd be happy to schedule something if you guys wanted to.
I would be very in favor of that.
Okay.
And there's a couple of things that you sent out to us. I don't know if you just sent it to Hillside Subcommittee but it was the Southeast Commission Regional Toolbox.
That was just to you guys.
And the Mountain Ridge Steep Slope Protection, which of course just goes with the steep slope. But especially this Southeast Commission, it's a booklet, but I just think it's a beautiful booklet. Full of lots of information in other communities, its vision, a large vision of development, and
So the
help me, Kayla.
Southwest.
I just have really liked
Yeah.
reading through it, and I think it's encouraging.
So Southwest Commission is the COG for Region A. So that's everything west of Buncombe County. Your COG is Land to Sky, which we did
Right.
I think it's the second one, the Mountain Ridge.
Is it the Mountain
Land to
Ridge
Sky
one?
did one of
I
them.
knew that you
Southwest
one.
did
I
the
couldn't
other
find
one.
Land of Sky on there, but they're
Yeah.
both really good publications that maybe you could just give us the link.
Yeah, we
And
can
I
certainly
just
share
recommend
materials.
those, just as some overall general, and I don't know if some of that thought can come into our training. Do you know what I mean? More of a tone, more of a approach. Yeah. It's just
Yeah,
a
I can
thought.
take a look at it.
We live in a unique place. you
Yeah,
know,
and
we have
it would be
unique
helpful
issues.
to know what you guys are looking for. If you do want to do a general overview of the different types of cases that you guys get, if it's more about deep diving on topics, we could even do some scenarios if you wanted to, like what happens when you get a rezoning. We can do that.
Could we tie it into the comp plan, which is supposed to provide guidance on how we would think about this?
That's good.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I mean, when we talk about your case types, you are examining a statement of reasonableness and consistency. So when we talk about, if we do go into the case types, if we do go into like a scenario, part of that would be the comp plan, because you do have to consider that.
Yeah, I mean, if we thought whatever we think will most likely come in 2024, if we could do like a case study on how we would approach it, tie it into the
That would be good.
reasonableness.
That'd be great.
I know when Bill, when you wrote the memo for the CZ that we had, like I started with a 100-word paragraph and it turned into 3 pages after you were done with it, which was very appropriate. So I found that very instructive to see how we actually do it.
Yeah, so why don't, go ahead.
Maybe it's a spring meeting, we could get some training done. and
I was
get some
gonna
suggestions
say
on that.
in the next maybe like month, so maybe by the end of November, if you guys want to send me an email of what you guys would like to see in a training, whether it's a general overview of your case types, if you have specific deep dive topics that you're interested in, and if you'd like to do some sort of scenario, I can make something up and we can just go through it based on that. If you guys want to email me by the end of November, then we can start looking at some dates for the spring.
Shall get that end of November? Okay, right.
One other slightly different but related topic. So with changes in the composition of this committee over time or commission over time, I'm wondering if it'd be useful to just have a list including embedded links to kind of what we and you collectively think are the key documents that the Planning and Zoning Commission ought to have at their fingertips as we do research and look at things that are currently in place. Obviously ordinances, the comp plan, maps, or just, a few things that jump to mind, but I just put that out for consideration.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the ordinance and the comp plan. Everything else that I send you guys, like for me, I don't need the legislative handbook from School of Government, and I don't know, some of you may not. But certainly I can look back through the links that I've sent. But whenever you guys are reviewing anything, it's always your ordinance and comp plan.
Mhm.
Anything else is extra.
Okay, thank y'all for that. Is there any other business to come before us?
I just wanted to, on
Yep.
the next meeting, that date is a Friday. Was that intentional or was it supposed to be the 18th?
Should be the 18th.
So change it to,
Yeah, it is a Friday. The 18th, are we saying?
mhm.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
That doesn't require any discussion, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all.
Good.